Hi everybody, it's Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this pullover granny square sweater. It can be made for a man or a woman. And you can use any colors of yarn that you would like. Now this is more of an advanced intermediate pattern because I don't go over specifically. You're going to need to know how to size up clothing for yourself. And how to sew granny squares together. There are many ways to sew. Actually, I'll drop a link in the description box. Donna Wolf from Nostalgia has a great video on how to sew up grannies. I do show you a little bit, but my yarn is black, so it's probably not completely visible. Now, I made this my size, and I will tell you that you can make your squares bigger to fit you, but you really are going to need to try it on yourself. If I had to guess, this would be a size medium that I am making in the video, and I'm 5'3", as you can see. So it is about 19 inches across, and it does have this little flip over collar. Now, if you don't want that, you can add a hood. I do explain that in the beginning, or when we get to this, I explain how you can add a hood. Also, if you think it's too far off the shoulders and you want it to come in more, feel free to sew it up a little bit more like that. That's completely up to you. Feel free to make half granny squares. I thought about doing that, but I kind of like the flip over color look better. Feel free to make it a cardigan just by don't sew this part up right here, and just add an edge on it. Yeah. Sleeves, these are my size. I'll give you a link. Those are also going to have to be adjusted to your size, but from the time I start the sleeves, the double crochet all the way down is about 18 inches, but adjustable. Like I said, I tell you how to decrease and everything. So, but remember, you will need to know how to You'll need to be familiar with how to size up clothing for yourself, how to measure yourself. I go for this. I went by my chest measurement, so that's what I would suggest you go by. Also, unless you do it a different way, that's fine. But let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, for this project, I use Lion Brand Mandala Roving yarn. It is classified as a 3-weight yarn, although I think it's kind of like more towards a 4, but you know, as long as you measure your body is what you're gonna have to do for this project. You could use the 3-weight or 4-weight. There are 415 yards in this cake, and it is 100% acrylic. This is not the color I used. I used this blue one, and I went through I actually color controlled mine, so I pulled my cakes apart. You can tell that from the look of it that it did not come out striped. But I used, and I would say I used probably a total of 4 altogether. If I was to compile them together, I probably used about 4 of them, of that lightweight 3. So a little over 1,600 yards for the size that I made. And then I'm going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. Okay, for the square, we're going to start off with the slip knot on our hook. It's a very easy square. And we're going to work a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to slip stitch back to the first stitch to form a ring. And then we're going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet. Now we're going to work back into the ring and work 2 more double crochets. And then we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to go back through the center of the ring and work 3 more double crochets. So that chain 2 was our first corner of our square. And then we're going to chain 2 again, and we're going to work 3 more double crochets through the center of the ring. So now you can see we have 3 sets of 3 double crochet. We need 4 sets, so we're going to go ahead and chain 2 again, go through and work 3 more double crochets through the center of the ring. And we will have our 4 sets of 3 doubles. And what we're going to do now to end the round, and how we end every round is the same. We're not going to chain 2 here. We're just going to put a half double crochet into the top of our beginning chain 3. So yarn over, go right into the top of it, and half double. And that's going to count as a chain 2 space. It actually puts us right in the middle, so we don't have to do any slip stitching or anything. So that's round 1 of the square. So we're going to start off, we're in the corner now. So we're going to start off by chaining 3, which counts as a double crochet, and we're going to work 1 more double into the same space here. Now our next stitch, we are going to do a front post double crochet. So it's actually around that chain 3 right there. And then we are going to do a regular double crochet into the top of the next stitch. And then a front post double crochet around the next. And now you'll see that we're at our corner, our chain 2 space. So in the chain 2 space, we work 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and 2 more double crochets. So that's what goes into every chain 2 space. So we're going to start again by doing a front post double crochet around the next stitch here, a regular double crochet into the next, front post double crochet around the next. Now we're at our corner, so we're going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more doubles, all into that same chain space. Okay, again, front post double around the next stitch, regular double into the next, front post double around the next, and now we are at our chain 2 space, so we work our 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 doubles. Front post double around the next, double into the next, front post double around the next, which is actually the last stitch, and now we're at that space where we started. And this is where we're going to end. So we have a 2 double crochets here, that chain 3 and then that double crochet there. So there's 2 doubles. So we need to add 2 more doubles to that same space to make it look like the other ones. And now we're going to end by putting a half double crochet into the top of that beginning chain 3, and that will act as our chain 2 space of the round. Now what we're going to do is just repeat what we just did. That was round 2. So it's just the same thing that we just did. We're just going to keep repeating that until we get our square as big as we want it to be. So again, we'll start off with a chain 3, go back into the same space here and double crochet 1 time, and then we start off with a front post double crochet into the first stitch, regular double into the top of the next stitch, front post double around the next stitch, and you can see that it's a post stitch from the previous round. Our posts will always line up, and a regular double into the next, front post double around the next, regular double into the next, front post double around the next, and now we're at our chain 2 space. So into the chain 2 space we work 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 doubles, and then we start again, front post double around the next stitch, and a regular double into the top of the next. And we're going to keep repeating this until we get our square as big as we want it to be. Okay, so I went ahead and did a total of 4 rounds. So I'm going to measure my square right now. I am going to go around it one more time with single crochet, but right now it measures 5 inches. And by the time I get done putting my single crochet around, it's going to measure about 5.5 inches. Now, you looked at, we'll go ahead and put the single crochet. You need to make your square big enough that it's going to fit you how you want it, whether it be loose or tight. So if my squares, and you have 4 across the front, so if my squares are 5.5 inches, that's going to equal 22 inches across, and then it'd be 22 inches in the back. So that'll be a total of 44 around the chest area. But you have to take into account that it's going to take off several inches when you sew it together. So when you sew it together, it's probably going to take off at least 3 inches from the top, back, or front panel, and probably about 3 inches from the back panel. So you need to take that in account when you're measuring how big you want it. Like right now, mine stands, like I said, they're about 5.5 inches a piece. I'm doing 4, so that would be 22 inches across the front and 22 across the back for a total of 44 inches. That's too big for me, but it will, I've already sewn part of mine together, and I know that it's going to take off about 3 inches off the front panel, which made it around 19 inches, and the back panel around 19 inches once it's all sewn together and done with. So and that would be a little bit more my size. So if you are a larger, you might want to go around, and you want a more loose fitting jacket than I have, you might want to go around again, and it will make it, every time you go around, it's going to add inches to your project. But keep in mind that it will take off a few inches on each panel by the time you get done sewing it up. So it's just, when I measure myself, it's just kind of trial and error. I figured out that it was going to take that many inches off my front panel, so that's how I adjusted to make my back panel. So so mine fits me right. But remember, you're bigger, you're going to go around and make your square bigger. And but now once you get your square as big as you want it to be, we're going to go outline it with a row of single crochet. So you can start in any corner that you want. Chain 1. Now we're going to go back into that same chain space, and we're going to work 2 single crochets. And now I'm going to work around, and I'm going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get to my next chain 2 space. Okay, now when you get to your chain 2 space, every chain 2 space gets the same amount. We just started differently in the first one, but from now on we're going to put 4 single crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces. So I'm going to go right in the space and work 4 singles. And then I'm going to start again, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch. Right here you have to be very careful. There's a chain 3 there, so you need to go in top of that and single crochet. And sometimes the next stitch gets a little hidden, but it's right here. You got to make sure you get it, otherwise your square is going to look wonky and it won't be straight. And I'm going to go ahead and work 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get to my next chain 2 space. When I get to my next chain 2 space, I'll work 4 single crochets into that, and I'm going to continue that pattern until I get back around to where I started. Okay, I've made it back to my starting point, and remember I started with 2 single crochets there in that first chain 2 space, so I'm going to go ahead and end by putting 2 single crochets there. So that will be a total of 4 there. Since we started with 2, we ended with 2. Now we're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet and tie that off. Now I made a total of 40 squares from mine. You've seen the measurements, how it looks on me. If you want to make yours longer, by all means, you can make it as long as you want. Shorter, by all means, as short as you want. But I did 20 on the back and 20 on the front. So I will show you how I sew them together. You could sew them together multiple ways. You can use a yarn needle, you can slip stitch, you can single crochet, many ways to sew a granny together. The way I sew it together for this particular project is the reason why it takes off so many inches. Different methods of sewing can actually add inches to your project, so it really depends on what you want. But I sew mine, so I lay mine out how I want it, this in whatever color order you prefer, or whatever, you know, and I kind of just sew them backwards. So front side up on that one, back side up, so it's back sides on both. And then I will take I'm going to use black to sew mine together. I'm going to be slip stitching mine together, but like I said, any method would work. Just take into account what method you choose and if it's going to add or take away inches from your project. So you want to start, there's 2 loops there. You can see the front loop and the back loop. So we're in the corner here, and there's 4 single crochets in the corner. You want to start in the third one from over here. So here's 1, 2. You want to go through the front loop only. This is how I sew mine together, of this one. And on your next one, you want to go into the same stitch, but you're going to go in the back loop only. So 1, 2, 3, back loop only. And then you take your yarn that you're using to sew it together, go through those loops, and then we work across. Go ahead and chain 1, working through the front loop of the first square and the back loop of the next square, and slip stitch. The front loop of the first square, the back loop of the next square, and slip stitch. And we do this all the way across. Front loop of the first square, back loop of the next square, and slip stitch. And you do this until you get to the corner. And this is what's creating the ridges on the front of the jacket, or the top. When you flip it over, it creates those black ridges there. So I'm going to continue across until I get over here to the corner. Okay, when you get to the corner here, you know that there's 4 stitches in the corner. Go through the first 2 single crochets and slip stitch them together. And then we will tie it off, or we can go ahead and add, if you want to continue like this, you can tie off and then start another one, or you can continue by following the same order here. Like this. So again, I'll go across, and when I flip it open, they'll be attached like that. And then I would do it again, and then they will be attached, and then you can start your next row all the way across, 4 rows. They'll be attached, and you can do that all the way down. And then once you're done sewing that up, and then we will sew all the way down this side the same way. From front, you'll flip it over like this and slip stitch it all the way down the exact same way. Whatever manner you chose to slip stitch yours together, that's how we'll continue to do it. So once you get your 2 panels made, you can see that I have my 2 panels made. I have 4 rows of 5 granny squares, and I made 2 panels the exact same with the exception of the front panel. I left the top 2 grannies unsewn so they could flip over like that in the front, kind of a little bit like a collar. But but we will go around and clean this up a bit later. Now but the back panel is sewn up at that spot. So we want to go ahead and sew the whole thing together now, but we need to leave an armhole, which I've already done on this side. I've sewed this side together. I left my armhole and I made my sleeve. That way I could tell you how big I did mine. But anyways, to sew it together, we want to take both of our panels and flip them wrong side out. So we're going to sew them together the same way that we sewed everything else together. But you have to remember that, sorry for all my tails, we have to leave a spot for our armhole and our neck opening. So I left my neck opening 2 granny squares, and I sewed this top granny square the same way to this top granny square, and that kind of sits on my shoulder. And then I left these open right here for the neck hole. And then for the armhole, you want to measure yours and see how big you want to leave yours open. But I actually left the 1 square open for mine. I did a total of 44 stitches for my sleeve, and that's the top part. So all the way around, I did 22 on this side and 22 on this side. 44, is that what I said? Yeah, 22 on this side and 22 on this side around. And that was what I left for my armhole. You might need yours to be bigger, so you might need to come down into this granny square, which is fine. However, you just start sewing up to however big you want to leave your armhole. You do decrease the sleeve. It starts out big, and then I kind of just decrease it a couple times down the row to make it a little bit tighter on the arm. But anyways, you want to sew up both sides the same. Remember to leave your armhole however big you decide to make it, the exact same amount of stitches on both sides. And then up here you want to sew, we're sewing the wrong sides facing each other, and then we'll flip it right side out. This first granny here, these first 2 grannies, sew them at the top, and that'll be our shoulder. And then leave your armhole open however big you want it, and then we sew down the rest of the way in the same manner that we've been sewing the whole time, just slip stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Let's see where I started over here. Okay, I actually started in the corner of this second granny, so the very first stitch, kind of tight, and then the last back stitch of that granny, pull through. Lots of tails I have, chain 1, and now we'll start sewing up this granny square here at the top, across the top, the same way. Remember that we sewed the others. You go through the front loop on the square closest to you. I know it's hard to see because it's black, and then the back loop on the one furthest from you, and so. And we do this all the way across, just the top of this granny here, like this. And once you make it the top of this granny, we tie off and mark we do both sides the same. Leave your 2 squares open for your neck. Gotta have a neck hole. So I'm going to continue across the top here. Going through the front loop on this one and the back loop on the opposite one. Remember, I'm at the top of my work, where this is where my shoulders are going to go across this granny here. And then you leave these open. These 2 grannies here around the back are open, and these 2 grannies are open also, and we left that split. And this right here is my armhole. You want to go ahead and remember, or my top of my other shoulder, sew it up. I already sewed mine up, just the same as you're sewing up this one. I got that top sewn up there, and I just tied off right at the top. And now remember, you want to mark your spot for your armholes. You could try it on and pinch together to see how big you need your armholes to be to fit your arm. I did mine. I just left 1 square open, and that I was able to get 44, like I said, 22 stitches on this side and 22 on this side. So we're going to go ahead and start wherever you decide to leave your armhole, whether it's down here or here, and you slip stitch it together the same way that we just been slip stitching it all together, and then we'll flip it right side out, and we'll have to clean up some edges and make the sleeves still. So I have mine sewn together, and I have it flipped the right side out, and I took a measurement, and remember, my squares were 5.5 inches a piece, which would equal, 4 of them would equal 22 inches. And now that it's sewn together, it measures about 19 across. So that would be about the measurement for this sweater. So now what we'll do is what you want to do. I'll just tell you. You'll want to clean up the bottom edges just by using whatever color you want. Doing a couple rows of single crochet around the bottom, 2, 3, however many you want, just to get the edges cleaned up. Or you could do a ribbing around the bottom, just anything to clean up the square, to how the squares are kind of lopsided. I'll probably do a row of single crochet or 2 around the bottom all the way around, just to make that look clean and neat. And then we will need to clean this up here. So we have, I don't have a lot of room here. We have our spot there that is split for like kind of just, you can kind of hang it over like that. So I'm going to go around the top and then around this part and then around here and kind of close this up a little bit with single crochet around this one and back around the top to where I started. Maybe I'll go ahead, there's lots of tails, but yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and start right up here. Anywhere, kind of just no, I want to start on this side because I want my single crochets to be facing the right side. So I need to start over here. I'm not going to be going through one loop. I'm going to be going through both loops this time. So just grab any stitch and pull through. I know this is the opposite side of the granny square, and that's fine. That's what we want. But I'm going to put my chain 1, go through that same stitch and single crochet. I'm going to go down it and making my granny, or making the single crochet face upright. This, I guess this is kind of acting as like a little bit of a collar. You could put a hood on it if you wanted to. You would just, if you wanted to attach a hood, you would just start from this corner all the way around the neck to this corner and go back and forth with rows of double crochet until you got about 12 inches tall, and then you would sew the top of the hood together. So that's an easy way you can put a hood on it. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave this little flap over here as a decoration, I guess. So I'm just single crocheting and cleaning up this collar edge. I just want to show you what I'm going to do to close up that area at the bottom. Okay, I've come to the corner of the granny square. I'm going to go ahead, let's see, remember we put 4 single crochets in this granny square. In the middle 2, I'm going to put 2 single crochets in each of those. That way it lays a little bit flatter. And then the other 2, I'll just put 1 in. There we go. That way it just kind of lays down flat and it's not going to be, won't flip up on you. Now I'm going to continue down my collar area. I need to have someone pay one of my kids to sew tails. $1 a tail. They'd make a lot of money. I'm just kidding. Alright, so continue down until you get to where these 2 squares meet. It's kind of a mess. Well, mine is anyways. And I'll show you how we're going to close that up and make it look a little bit neater. I think it already looks neater now with this single crochet edge on it. It looks a lot cleaner, doesn't it? I like that. I like that a lot. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this, but as far as the collar wise being flipped over, I thought about just doing half granny squares, but I thought I just wanted to do a collar. Okay, so I come to this messy area here. What I basically want to do is just kind of close the gap up here. So just do your best to kind of single crochet it all together the best that you can. So let's see here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just jump across to my blue one here and continue my single crochet like that. And then I think I'll just take my yarn needle when I'm finished and sew up this little gap here that's left that didn't get sewed when I was sewing it earlier, or use this tail and just kind of sew it up a little bit. So if you may not even have that gap, you might have sewed yours up correctly. I guess I didn't sew it as far up as I should have. So I'm going to continue this. And when I get up to my next corner here of my granny square, I'm going to call it my granny square collar. I want to do the same thing in this corner as we did the other one. It just helps it lay flat. So remember how we put 4 single crochets in the corner of our granny squares? So we are going to, the middle 2, we'll put 2 single crochets in each of those. That's what we did on the other side. So 2 in that one. And then, remember, we're going through both loops. We're not doing one loop anymore. 2 in that one. And then just continue working 1 single crochet. If my project wasn't so big, all the way across until we get back to where we started. So we'll go across the back also of our work. Okay, now for the sleeves, like I said, you determine how big you left your opening to fit your sleeve, I left mine where there were 44 stitches. So I've already you want to make sure you do both sleeves the exact same size. You can do them any color you want, all the same color. It doesn't really matter. But I've done 44 double crochets all the way around. And then I went ahead and ended with a slip stitch into my first double crochet. I'm going to do a total of 6 rounds of double crochet, counting this one. This would be number 1, and I'll have 44 stitches at the end of every round following me. Now if you made yours bigger, however many you have, you need to do 6 rounds of that size. So I'm working on round 2, and of my sleeve, and I'll meet back up with you when I finish out round 6. Okay, so I've got my 6 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would suggest you try it on, and if it feels tight for you still, you can still do a couple more rows before you do any decreases. But mine's fine at 6. I'm going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into my first double crochet. I'm going to change colors of yarn now, and I'm going to do a row of single crochet decrease. So I still have a 4 stitches. I am going to, like I said, use any color you want, make them all the same color, whatever you want, your sweater. Now what we need to do is evenly as possible put 5 decreases in this next row, which will be row 7, I guess. So go ahead and start. Just equally, no matter how many stitches you have, just kind of place 5 single crochet decreases to where they're semi have the same amount of stitches. It doesn't have to be exact. It's not going to be exact because my number isn't even an exact number. So what I'm going to do for mine, since I have 44 stitches, I'm going to start there in that first stitch, and I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back in it and single crochet. I'm going to do 6 single crochets in a row. That would be number 1. And then I'm going to do a single crochet decrease, and that's what I'm going to do all the way around for mine. Depending on the sleeve size that you chose, you might have more single crochets before you do the decrease, but you just want to kind of evenly space out your 5 single crochet decreases all the way around. And what it's going to do is take away 5 stitches. So that's what we want to happen. Like I said, it's not going to be even. So don't worry about that. Just do your best to get it as even as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, spacing out 5 single crochet decreases until I get back to my starting point. Okay, I've made it back to the beginning and of round 7. Now, following along with me, I will have a total of 39 stitches because I had 44 and I took 5 away. Now what I'm going to do is change colors again. I'm going to go to my light blue, and I am going to do 6 rows of the light blue of 1 double crochet in each row. So just like we did up here, except for now I will have 39 stitches at the end of every round as opposed to the 44 that we had before. So this is what I'm going to do the whole way down. So I'll go ahead and I chained 1. I'm going to go ahead and double crochet back in that same stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what you'll need to do the whole way down on my other sleeve. So what I did, I told you, is I did 6 rows here of 1 color, and then I decreased with my single crochet. I decreased 5 away, which left me 39 stitches. And I did 6 rows of this color, and then again I used my black and I decreased again 5. I took 5 away, which left me 34 stitches. So I did 6 rows in this color, all double crochet, And then I decreased again, taking away another 5 stitches, which left me 29 stitches. And then I did 6 rows of this color, and then I decreased one more time. I took 5 stitches away at the bottom of single crochet, which left me 24 stitches, I believe. I think that was correct. And I did one more row of just regular single crochet after that. So again, one more time, if you're following along with me, now you might need to make yours longer than mine. You might need to make it shorter. You can adjust it as you go. But remember, for my size, I started out with 44 stitches. I did 6 rows of double crochet, and then I did a row of single crochet and removed evenly spaced out 5 single crochet decreases, which left me with 39 stitches. Now I did 6 rows of the next color, all double crochet, and then I did a decrease row, evenly spacing out 5 single crochet decreases, which left me 34 stitches. I did 6 rows of double crochet in my next collar, and then I did another row of single crochet decreasing, evenly spacing out 5 decreases, and then that left me 29 stitches, which I did 6 rows of my last color of double crochet, and then at the end I did one more row of 5 decreased 5 single crochets there, and it left me 24 stitches, and then I did one more row of single crochet at the end. Remember, you adjust yours as you go. If you want it longer, make it longer, but that's how I did mine, and that's how I'm going to do my other sleeve also. Okay, it is finished. Let's check it out. I went ahead and hit all my tails. I went down the bottom with 2 rows of single crochet to clean up the bottom edge. I think here, I told you that you could put a hood on it. If you try it on and you feel like it's too, the opening is too wide, feel free to sew it up a little bit more. That's fine too, but it turned out all right. You know, this wasn't my intentions for it at all, but some things don't always work out as planned, and some things you like better than others. I'm not a granny square person, but I hope some people like it and some people want to make it. So I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. I know it was quick, and like I said, you had to be informed on how to size up your own clothing and stuff like that. But thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you on my next video. Stay safe.